Hello, everyone. It's Joy Nelson from the Denver, Colorado area, and I am so happy to be demonstrating something for you today. This is the double vision background. So it's going to be really cute, and I hope you enjoy my full tutorial, but this is going to be the video portion for it so that you get a really good idea of how to do this background. So first, we have a piece of designer series paper from the Scenic Coast 6x6 designer series paper. I'm also going to be using the coordinating bundle that goes with that, the Sunset Coast, which has the stamp set and some fabulous dies. So first off, let's go ahead and cut our 6x6 paper into the size that we're going to start with. So I've got the 6x6 piece, and I have to decide how much I'm going to use of it, like which side and just how much I'm going to use of it. So I decided that I was going to go to 5 inches and turn it this direction and cut off just a little bit of that sky. So like an inch of that sky to start off with. And then I want it at 3.5 inches. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So 3.5 inches, because I want to get most of that water there with the sun shining on it. It is gorgeous paper, and it does have an iridescent sheen to it in the water reflection. So hopefully you can see that in the camera. So I'm going to start out with a piece of the designer series paper, and it is 3.5 inches by 5 inches. So that's our designer series paper. And then I also want a scrap of blueberry bushel, because that's one of the colors that's in this gorgeous paper. And I want another piece of blueberry bushel. So the scrap piece just has to be big enough to get the sailboat in. So that's all. That's the size we need for that. And then we need a piece of blueberry bushel that is exactly the same size as this, because this is going to be our backing for how we're doing our double vision background. Let's go ahead. This is 3.5 inches by 5 inches. And I need it to be a width this direction. I need it to be a width that is divisible by 1/2 inch increments, so even increments. So this will do 7 even 1/2 inch strips when I'm ready to cut that apart for my background. You're going to have a piece of gorgeous grape, which is also in this beautiful paper. So our colors primarily are going to be the blueberry bushel and gorgeous grape for our cardstock. Of course, a little basic white gets thrown in there as well. So this is 3 5/8 inches. So this is going to be a skinny border, a skinny mat. So 3 5/8 by 5 1/8. So then it will create a very skinny layer there. So there's that piece. I want an inside piece that is going to be our standard inside layer, which is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, basically. And so that's our inside layer. And then our card base is a standard tall card base, 1/2 of an 8.5 by 11, which comes out to 4 1/4 inches by 11 inches, and then 1/2 of 11 is 5 1/2. So that is where our score line is. So I'm just going to go ahead and give that a nice little crisp score line with my bone folder here. And again, this is going to be a tall card. So it's going to open this direction. All right. So let's go ahead and, oh yes, I also need a couple of, not a couple, just one. I have an extra one here. I need 1 strip of basic white that is 3/8 of an inch wide, and it is 2 3/4 inches the other direction. So 3/8 by 2 3/4 inches. So that's our basic white. That's going to be for our sentiment And yes, of course, I also need a piece of gorgeous grape. So I'm pulling out a piece of the gorgeous grape here. I'm going to cut that down, and it is going to be 1/2 an inch. So just again, 1/8 of an inch larger. And if you ever wondered how to, hold that in place so that it's on the right marking and it doesn't slip, just get a little piece of washi tape and tack that down. And then go ahead and cut that to 1/2 inch. And then you will need it at 2 7/8. So 2 7/8 inches right here. So now we have a piece, a layering piece for our basic white sentiment piece. So those are the pieces that you're going to need. And let's get started. I think we're going to start out with a little stamping so that it goes the order of our tutorial. So we have our 3/8 by 2 3/4 inch basic white, and we have blueberry bushel ink. And we're going to just put this over here. And we're going to stand up to do this. You can't see me standing, but I am standing. So if my voice sounds a little bit different, that's why. And then I'm just going to line this up to the right. I want to leave a little gap on the left side. Just going to line that up to the right. We're just going to hold that on there just a little bit. Let the ink absorb into the paper. And there we have it. We have our congratulations. We're going to set that aside. And now we're going to stamp our inside piece. Well, we've got all our ink out here. We're going to stamp that. So we're going to take all of these stamps and dies are from the Sunset Coast bundle. We're going to do the Adventure Continues. So I'm thinking, this would be a good sentiment for a congratulation card. Oops. I just got a bunch of ink on my wrist, but that's okay. Getting inky just means you're having fun. Let's go ahead, stamp this, and then we're going to bring in this and a little piece of scrap paper. Oh, that's not it. I have some little pieces of scrap paper here, I think. Just get a little piece out off my desk here, because we're going to have to stamp off. I'm going to fold this piece in half. This is, again, like I said, just a scrap piece. And this is a little piece. This is like the small section of water here. I'm just going to stamp it off on our paper here. Oops. Let's do this again, because we want it a little bit lighter. We don't want it full strength. And we are just going to stamp it right down here at the bottom, in the bottom corner. And it didn't all come. Let's try this again. There we go. That's good enough. And then we're going to stamp one of these little sailboats on top of our water here. There we have it. And then we have our inside and our outside stamped. And now we can move on to die cutting. So now I'm going to get out my die cutting machine. And so I'm going to take this little silicone part of my glass mat and move that, because I am just going to bring out the big die cutting machine because that's what's handy here next to my desk. And I'm going to bring in my platforms. We're going to have platform 1 and platform 2. And then we're going to have 2 of the number 3 cutting mats. Put those together. We're going to get that, and we're going to bring out our sailboat and our seagulls dies out of this Sunset Coast die set. We just need the sailboat, and I'm going to do the seagulls. And normally, since the seagulls are so tiny, I would use a piece of adhesive sheet on the back of that, but I don't want to because of the way I'm doing the background. So let's go ahead. Let's get both of these on here. And then the little seagulls will go right here in this like part that isn't going to stay attached. And I'm going to take this little piece of washi tape and just kind of hold those things together. And now I'm going to put my other cutting mat on top. I'm going to run this through. And now we're going to have all of our die cutting is going to be done. So then we can move on to the next step. So I decided to go ahead and do the entire card on the video instead of just doing the background part. So here we have our little seagulls. And we have our, let's get that off of the washi tape here. And yes, I'm having fun because I have a big streak of the blue here. And I need this die brush. What kind of, oh, I need the pokey end, not the spatula end. This will kind of help me get this out of the die. And we want to carefully do that because it is pretty delicate. And we will go ahead and poke out these pieces later out of the die. So now we have our seagulls and our sailboat. Just line those up. Now the sailboat, I wanted to just cut the sailboat free. I mean, you could cut this and have it like a big square and have it kind of silhouetted like that, but that's not the way I wanted to do it for this card. So I am just going to cut this little sailboat free. With my scissors. And now we have our little sailboat. So now we have all of our die cuts. Die cuts are ready to go. And now we need to bring back our paper trimmer. And we're going to bring back that piece of designer series paper that was again 3.5 inches by 5 inches, and we're going to cut it at 1/2 inch strips. So put the 3.5 inch side against the top of our cutter, and then we're going to slide it over to the 1/2 inch mark, and we're going to cut. And we're going to keep these in order. Don't get these out of order. We're going to keep these in order. And we're going to keep cutting until we get all of them done. They will all be 1/2 inch. We have just a couple more to go. We will have 7 pieces total. If you are doing metric, if you're in another market and you're seeing this, you're doing metric, I would probably do 1 centimeter size, or possibly 1.5 centimeter size, depending on how wide you want them to be. Okay, we're going to have to bring in our little piece of washi tape to hold that down for us. And then we should have the 1/2 inch right like that. Hold it down with the washi. And there we have it. There we have all of our strips are done. And we can go ahead and start attaching these. So as you can see, they line up like this. They're all lined up. We're going to bring in that piece of blueberry bushel that was, again, the same size of the original where we started out for the designer series paper. So that's going to be 3.5 inches by 5 inches. And we are going to bring in some of the liquid glue. I suggest the liquid glue for this part. It's going to be easier because you're going to be able to move that around a little bit. Thin amount, not too close to the edge. You don't want it oozing out the sides. And we want the water down. So we're going to do this one right on the edge here, making sure we're carefully lining this up. Again, the liquid glue gives you just enough wiggle room. And then the next piece we're not going to glue down. The next piece we're just going to go right up against that other piece, and we're just going to let that stay there as kind of a placeholder for now. We want to get it just kind of hanging out there really tight against there. And we're going to go for the next piece. So we're gluing down every other piece. Like I said, thin it out if it gets too thick. You don't want it too thick on there. And now we're going to put this one right up against that one. Make sure your edges are all correct. Make sure it slides in place perfectly and it's right up against that other piece. Okay, so now another piece that's not glued down. No glue on the second piece, no glue on the fourth piece. But on the fifth piece, yes, we are going to have glue. And we want to make sure it goes correctly so that that horizon line lines up perfectly. And then the sixth piece does not get glued down. But the seventh piece does get glued down. That's our last piece with glue. Oop, make sure, like I said, that's the beauty of doing the liquid glue. You can move it around a little bit. Getting it lined up perfectly, like so. And now we can bring in some of the foam adhesive strips. Sometimes they don't want to come out of the package. There we go. Okay. Now I have kind of pre-cut these to size, and I've kind of marked which ones they are to save a little bit of time on our video. So we're going to take the second piece out here, and we're going to pull out this piece of the foam, strip. I'm going to put this right on the back, right in the middle. Okay, get this down just a little bit. I did cut it slightly shorter than my piece on purpose. There we go. There's this piece, and you can take your pick tool and kind of help you lift that up. I'm going to just create a little wing there. I'm going to do the same on the end. This is just going to allow me to kind of get it in place without too much of a commitment. Make sure I get it. Oops, the wing. There we go. All right. Now we can pull that strip, and there we have that one. Now the next one is not attached, so number 4 is not attached. We're going to do the same thing. We're just going to repeat that this time and then one more time. Do the same, make the little wing. Again, lining it up in between those two. Oops, my little wing, where'd it go? There's my little wing. Okay, so we're just lining that up best we can, and then we can pull the string. And one more time. This is our last one. Foam tape is really fun if you need to do nice long strips of dimension. And what makes this double vision is you've got part of the background is popping up off the background. So it creates kind of the thought of, oh wow, what are we seeing here? So it creates kind of a double vision look. Hence why somebody named it double vision. Okay, well, one last strip, and there we have our background. And now we can attach our background to the gorgeous grape layer, which again was 1/8 of an inch larger, so that's 3 5/8 by 5 1/8. And I'm just gonna go ahead and use some of my seal here. we're just going to put this on this nice little skinny layer, like so. And now we're going to attach that onto the front of our card base. We want the water. The water's this part down here, the shiny part, if you have this paper. And we are, oh, that's right, we're moving it over here so that we have an even border on these three sides. So the top, the left, and the bottom. We want an even border around there. And we're also going to attach our congratulations to our gorgeous grape sentiment layer. Let's see. Let's just get a little glue here. Again, this is another skinny border. Okay. And the liquid glue does help it to be able to have a little wiggle room. So there we have the sentiment, and let's go ahead and put the inside in. I think this will make a really nice congratulations card. Getting an even border around that way. And now we need to do our die cuts. So I decided I wanted to do basically some just pieces of the black dimensionals for this. Any dimensionals would work. So just some tiny pieces and strips. Yeah, this needs to be cut in half because it's only going to be attached on two sides. So we don't need our dimensionals all the way around. We just need them in the two sides. And we want a little dimensional right here. And we want another piece up here and another piece at the bottom. So just some tiny little pieces trimmed down with our scissors for this sailboat. And I'm gonna get all the papers off. And then this is going to go right here, kind of at our horizon line. So we didn't put any, the middle of this ship does not have any adhesive, no dimensionals or anything like that. We just put it on the two edges because of the background is raised like that. And let's go ahead and get our seagulls. Now we just need teeny tiny little drop of glue in the middle part of the body of the seagull. So I'm going to use a fine tip glue pen that does have the multi-purpose liquid glue in it. And we're just going to put this larger one kind of here. And then we need to put just a little tiny bit on the body of the next one. So we're just putting little tiny dabs of multi-purpose liquid glue on these pieces. And the same with the smallest seagull. Just little tiny dabs of glue. And that one's going to hang out right there. So now we have our sailboat and our seagulls. We just have to put our sentiment on. And our sentiment is going to be interesting. It's going to need some double dimensionals in 3 places. So let's bring back our black mini dimensionals and let's find out where this needs to go. And like I said, they're double stacked. So stack one on top of the other. And another one towards the end, but not all the way to the end. And then one more should be about in the middle of those two. We're going to hope that that's right. Okay. Now, just going to get the papers off. And we're going to attach this onto our card, kind of going down a little bit. And now it's going to hang out like that. And we need one more thing. We need a little embellishment. So I wanted the blueberry bushel. So because of that, I decided to use the gems, the Garden Epoxy Dots. So this has some little solid blueberry bushel gems here. We're going to move this to the spatula end. And I'm just going to push that around a little bit, try to get that right on the end. Put that right there. So there we have our card, our double vision background card that we use the Sunset Coast bundle with. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. I really hope you enjoy the tutorial, the written as well as the video portion of it.